The next person to mention Richard Roeper will be fired.
And anybody that says to you, and I won't name names, that says the movie business is over, are fools.
What drives him? What drives him? So welcome, Ari. It's an amazing ride that your life and career has been and still is. It's still
That's
going strong.
sweet of you to say.
From the hot-headed Chicago kid with dyslexia, ADHD, gift for racquetball, to one of 2 or 3 of the biggest deal makers and power brokers in entertainment, right? We couldn't be more delighted to have you, Ari.
Well, I appreciate it.
And you do know what my first question is going to be.
Well, at least this was the first question, and January 6th was 45 minutes in, so we can start. I'm assuming that's where you're going.
Give us your take, the ultimate assessor of talent, politics, the global scene.
Can you hear me? Yeah. So they can't hear you.
Okay. All right. Better.
Better.
Better. Yes. Okay.
So first of all, I'm pissed off at me.
Okay, is that better now?
Okay.
All right, Democrats are jumping out of the window. What are you thinking?
Well, I'm pissed off at the Founding Fathers. They had the start date of 35. They just didn't give us the end date. Well, everybody died, so they didn't have to give the end date. I don't want to deal with Donald Trump and what he said was true. It's a given, certain things. I'm not going to talk about CNN. Here's what Biden did. He said he was going to run for 1 term, and he's doing it to restore democracy. He now runs for a 2nd term. First bit of malarkey, as he would say. Then he says that this is for it's a quintessential thought about saving democracy, and it's so important, etc. His cohorts have told us that he's healthy for over a year, and I think it was 2 weeks ago there was an article in the Wall Street Journal. And I had a father who died at 92, but at 81, I took away his car. And it's a very simple test for me. If you were driving from, anywhere they understand, from downtown Beverly Hills to Malibu, would you want Biden to do it at night? Would you want Trump to do it at night? Or want neither? If the answer is neither, you cannot have them running a $27 trillion company called the United States.
Okay.
And then we sat in a situation where he went to France for the 80th anniversary and talked about the sacrifice that those soldiers made for us. So he has said, and his cohorts have said, he's the only one that has defeated Trump. It does seem like Donald Trump said, I'm the only one, I alone can make all these problems go away. And now Biden is saying, I'm the only one that can beat Trump. Seems like it's pretty similar here. And we have a great bench in the Democratic Party. And so we're looking at a man who's saying the other guy's a liar, and he's telling us malarkey. His people are telling us malarkey. But we're in a very bad problem. He is not the candidate anymore. I mean, if you all remember, this is a legal issue now. He was going to get kicked off the ballot in Ohio. They elected him the candidate. So you no longer can remove him. In 3 swing states, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, there's only one Democratic Congress, Michigan. They have to vote to remove him. I don't believe the Republican Party in Pennsylvania and in Wisconsin are going to do that. Okay, and if they do, it's then Kamala Harris. We don't have. This is legal, so lawyers have to look at this. And everybody says, "Well, get rid of him," and brokered convention. No. Now, maybe the delegate. There's some question whether the delegates can do something, and I promised myself I wasn't going to swear. So we're in a. This is a pickle. You know, the lifeblood to, and I have a brother who's a politician. He's an ambassador, as it said. The lifeblood to a campaign in politics, the lifeblood is money. And maybe the only way this gets, with smart lawyers looking at it, is if the money starts drying up. And I'm assuming all of you've gotten a lot of calls. I've gotten a lot of calls. We've all sat there. It was
Well, I was going to say, what happens now?
you know,
Jeffrey Katzenberg's massive.
and if this is, as Biden says, the fight for our democracy, and he talks about the soldiers, man, he gave us a bunch of malarkey, and I'm really pissed.
Right.
And we all should be really pissed.
Right. And what does this do to Jeffrey Katzenberg's fundraising?
Well,
It's
you
in
know,
Hollywood.
Jeffrey, I mean, you're going to know in the next couple, you're going to see polling, you're going to see in the next couple of weeks if the money comes in. I talked to a bunch of big donors, and they're moving all their money to Congress and the Senate. I mean, I cannot believe we're in this situation.
Well, as one of the great disruptors in your career, I mean, do we have to sit by and sleepwalk?
It's a legal issue now.
Yeah.
You're not in, I'm going to resign, you know, unless the lawyers tell you something else, and maybe there's some wiggle room. I haven't seen it, and I'm not a lawyer, but we're in fuck city.
Okay, I'm glad we got to that. So, of course, you know Trump very well, too. I mean, in fact, you used to represent him, and now we're sadly, scarily, looking at what seems to be Trump, the sequel. Sort of what are you expecting, and what are you, knowing him well, tell us about his psyche and how it may have changed over the years that you've known him.
I mean, here's what I would say to you is, he is who he is. I don't know if he's slowed down. I have no idea. He looked okay there. And he will do what he says. That's what he does. And fine. I mean, you know, that's what we should be expecting.
So cast me a president. I mean, you have the best eyes.
Listen, we have in the Democratic Party and in the Republican Party, you have really great benches. Anybody under 60 years old or in the beginning of their 60s, on both sides, we would all vote for. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I think the Founding Fathers made a mistake. They just didn't give us an end date.
Well, they also had much shorter lifespans.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Everybody died, so they didn't have to. I mean, they didn't think about it.
So, I mean, you know, I know you're very politically engaged, and you gave that very surprising speech to many at the Simon Wiesenthal Center, where you received that top humanitarian award. And I think there was a sharp intake of breath, you know, when you castigated Bibi Netanyahu from the podium, you know, without stinting on your own support for Israel in its war against Hamas. I mean, how did that sort of impetus to do that night happen? I mean, what drove you that night to make such a very big public statement?
I think he's a narcissist. I think for the last 20 years he's only done one thing, and stay in power. A bunch of his cabinet members are causing huge problems, and the ultra-Orthodox and the right wing in Israel are causing problems in the West Bank. They should have a homeland. as I said, I mean, my grandparents had the first pharmacy in Israel. I remember going after the Six-Day War 3 weeks after, going there for 6 years in a row. So my commitment to Israel is known. This man has done one thing and one thing only: stayed in power, and he doesn't deserve it. He doesn't deserve my family's legacy and the legacy of people in Israel, and Palestinians have deserved better in the West Bank, and it's for us as Jews that we want to give them a homeland, for our survival. We're not giving them anything. And he has kept money flowing to Hamas to create the separation, and he also is a selfish leader and doesn't deserve to be in power. And we have to stop with all these selfish leaders across the globe that think that they need to hold on for the rest of their lives because they alone can do it.
It is a real global trend, this kind of monomania and the hanging on to power, and they're only invested in self. I don't know how we change that.
Well, you have to vote. You have to fight.
Elect different people, of course. Yes, well, Ari, you and I have known each other a long time. I first met you in the spring of 2000, 5 years after you launched Endeavor. Do you remember this? You came into my office at Talk Magazine to pitch an article about the wild success of your fledgling agency.
Yes.
And for some reason, I believed you, right?
Yeah.
And we did that huge piece.
I conned the shit out of you.
Yeah, you did. And I spent, I was walking around saying, this amazing talent, I thought, it took me a while to sort of realize what had happened. But by that time, this huge puff piece had appeared in Talk Magazine. But actually, the whole theme, I reread the piece. It was quite fun to reread it. And really one of the big themes of it, and your selling point, was that the sort of sailboat nimbleness, as you said, of Endeavor versus the slow-moving ocean liner of the other rival agencies like William Morris, right? So now you run an entertainment company that is an absolute behemoth. I mean, it's bigger than any of these those slow-going ocean liners. So how do you stay nimble? And do you ever fear you're going to be disrupted, just like you disrupted ICM? And in fact, the Mike Ovitz group, they walked out of where did they walk out of?
William Morris.
William Morris, that's right. They walked out and started CAA. So it's a bit of a trend that happens at the young Turks.
Well, first of all, I don't think that can happen anymore just because of the ecosystem now in entertainment, but we can get into that later. I run it, I'm a serial entrepreneur, and so I don't waste a lot of time. I don't suffer fools that work for me. I am very combative. I make you defend, but I also let you make mistakes. And so that kind of spurs a lot of people going for it. Hopefully they see that I'm at the front of the line, not I'll take the first bullets, whether it be Michael Moore or BB. I'm right out in front grinding, and I have a lot of business I grind on, but in the representation business. And I hope that inspires them to do the same and then share. I'm not a wallflower, so I don't let just when I don't see something going right, I kind of dig in and see what happened and call meetings but I do let people run their businesses until there's a problem, and then usually if we can fix it, we fix it, and if it's a mistake, we learn from the mistake and go on. So you run it like an entrepreneur, and you just kind of grind really hard.
So the early culture of Endeavor was, of course, satirized in Entourage, was like Porsche Carreras speeding sharply dressed agents for breakfast at the Four Seasons, lunch at the Grill. What's the culture now? Is it changed?
Here's what I would say to you is, there was a period of time I ran the agency with a lot of anger, a lot of fear, a lot of pressure. There was a period of time then I did a lot of work on myself, and there was a transition period where we had a lot of businesses. And I didn't think that was the way to run it. Not that there can't be pressure, but the fear and anger was not conducive to then the size we were at. So I've changed. I still keep a lot of pressure. I don't go crazy on people the way I did, as that satirized. And I kind of realize, there's other ways to get to the end. It's worked out. I'm not perfect, because sometimes I do get angry, and but it's so much better. I mean, Mondays were really bad for people, because I would be thinking about things, seeing things, and I would come in, and it would just be
a volcano.
Oh, it would be horrible on people, and they would be just like, and it's just not a way to live your life or kind of have a family. Jeff Bezos said something to me, and he was like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and he was 100% right. And I've said this before in podcasts, you just have to know when you're on the field. And the problem when I started is I never let myself get off the field. And that's also not a way to live your life. And the stuff off the field helps me on the field. And I've gotten better at it, as my new wife says to me, you're calling that a vacation. That was a trip. So I'm not perfect, but I'm getting better.
So you're legendarily persistent. I mean, that's part of the secret sauce, isn't it, of the manual success. Who's been the most resistant star you've ever signed, and how did you win them over?
Well, I just signed Kevin Hart. It was a 3-year pursuit. 4-year pursuit. I thought because of the ecosystem that we built at the company, we could do more with what he was, and he was an entrepreneur. And it just took time for him at UTA to realize they didn't have any of the tools that we had. There wasn't the energy behind what needed to happen. One of the most important things for representing somebody, or if you own a business like the UFC or the WWE or anything, is ideas in this day and age matter more than ever. And it's okay to pitch ideas, and 95 are bad, but the 5 that are great make a difference. And I think that's what we've taught people, to kind of do that. And that's kind of how...
You mean the ideas coming from the artist, and then you...
No, ideas coming from us to the artist.
Right.
And it's also important to start new businesses within the business and let them fail or let them succeed, or you learn from, because there's no straight line of success. It's kind of all over the place. And realize that, and not be afraid of that. And when you and then I showed him after we saw each other at the Super Bowl. I've been pitching him for 3 years. We represented him in the stand-up business. And he realized that they weren't paying attention to one area of his life that I was pounding on. And,
which was?
They didn't take his production company seriously. And I didn't have the resources to really do that. And so we're now off to the races.
Okay, so, and what do you think back?
I mean, it's more complicated than that, but yes, that's kind of
okay, that was basically,
yeah.
You got
You
got him. So, and what about the hairiest moment that you've been through in this incredible roller coaster? I mean, when you look back, which were the times that made you feel? We had Brian Chesky here the other day, and he was talking to me about, the near-death experience that he went through when Airbnb looked like it was going to be eradicated by COVID. I mean, what is your...
Well, I think all of us, that's a singular moment for all of us.
Right.
We took divisions down to the stubs, fired people. It was horrible. That for, I think, a lot of companies, that was like... Right. But I think there was a couple... I don't think people remember 2008 now. That was when the world was, my brother was in the White House. He was the chief of staff. It could have been a depression. That was bad for all businesses. The hairiest moment I remember early on, it was just this article about Michael Moore and Fahrenheit 9/11 and my little discussion with Michael Eisner, which
is Michael here? He might be.
That was a tough. He had Fahrenheit 9/11. He didn't want to release it. Harvey Weinstein wanted it. and he was, owned by Disney. Michael had situations, as we now realize, tax situations in Florida, and it was complicated. I then sold the movie to Lionsgate. Harvey went and bought it. He then picked up the phone, and we were like a small little agency, nothing. And it was right at the middle that there was upfronts coming up in May when they showed all their new shows and told the advertisers. And we were just a television agency at the time. And he calls me up at 6:30 in the morning when it gets announced that Harvey's gone, and he laid me out. And finally, and ABC was like 4th in the network. I was getting sick of it. And I said, I don't give a shit what you do. I didn't do this. You do whatever you want to do. You're 4th in the networks. You don't want to pick up any of my shows. Go with God. I was like, and he picked up shows. We did whatever. But that was scary, because, and I think the last one was we buy the UFC for $4.2 billion. I thought Fox had to buy it because of the RSNs and how much we were doing at the network. Fox decides to merge with Disney. They can't do anything, both of those companies. Then I had a deal with AT&T as a backup. I had prepped when they took over Warner Brothers. It wasn't official, but at least there was something there. Then Trump decides that merger can't happen for a year. So I had nothing. I had put all the chips in the middle of the table. I had clients who had invested. I had all my investors. And the clock was ticking. I had 8 months left with no deal. And that was bad.
I mean, that you must have an enormous sort of appetite for risk and very strong nerves is all I can say, because I can't imagine.
That one I got sick. I got
churning.
my thyroid, because of my nerves, had went into hyperdrive. And truly, I got hyperthyroid. My thyroid's perfect now, but I mean that was really bad.
Really
that was the hairiest moment.
It definitely sounds
Yeah.
like it. So let's just talk a little bit about the amazing family that you come from, because on Wednesday we had really a great session called "Are We Failing Our Boys?" right, with Wes Moore and others, that looked at why so many boys and men are searching for purpose, and feel kind of left behind. And Wes Moore actually memorably said, we must make sure that black girl magic doesn't become black boy tragic, which I thought was kind of memorable. Your parents raised 3 boys, of course, who your amazing brothers and you, who made it to the mountaintop, right, of success. So what was in the water in the Emanuel household that was like, give us some tips, and are you passing this on to your own 3 sons? What happened
Here's
in that
what
household?
I'd say. She didn't overschedule us. She made us work hard at school. They took us around all over the world, and we had dinners every night, Shabbos dinners every Friday night. We didn't have cell phones back then, and they let us fail. They let us do our thing, and they were really, really supportive. With my kids, I have 4 kids. I have an adopted daughter who's the eldest. But I used to come home for dinner almost every night, then go out to tapings or sets or dinner with clients. I showed up at all their, I'd say 90% of their events, or took them around. We didn't overschedule them, and we didn't let them get away with shit. And now, I'm not FaceTiming them all the time. I'm not calling them. If they call me, they're doing their own thing. I'm giving them advice, and I'm letting them do their thing. I see Brian Grazier in the audience. He had this book reading with this incredible author about what cell phones have done, what social media has done, what it's done to girls, what it's done to boys. Brian, who was the guy that wrote the book? Yeah,
Oh, yeah, Jonathan.
which is an incredible book. His other book was incredible. And I think the problem is, you know, I don't have my phone here. That's their friend. And that can't be their friend because we're social animals.
And what kind of latitude have you given your own kids with?
Well, they didn't have phones, I think,
Phones.
until they were like 13 or 14. And I didn't let them have video games at all. We have this discussion how much they're on social media now. So.
Well, we had Sam Altman here on Wednesday, who assured us that we have, that we have little to fear from AI. And I had flashbacks to all those sort of disingenuous, sincere testimonies of Mark Zuckerberg addressing the long list of harms that he'd unleashed on society, but that persists kind of unabated,
Right.
So, I mean, give me your own take on what we should be thinking about the AI sort of reassurances that we get from, these new, brilliant, obviously innovators, and what it's going to sort of do to not just your industry, but our world, in your view.
Well, he's a friend of mine, and I think I always call him about this, and he's I think, a really smart guy. We disagree about a lot of stuff that he does. He disagrees about a lot of stuff that I do, maybe. But I think Elon's pretty smart here. And if he's nervous...
I'm talking about Sam Altman.
Oh, no, but I must just say, if he's nervous,
right, okay.
We should be nervous. And I do think there should be guardrails. I don't know if our government and the current state of our government will get there. These people have a lot of money and are big lobbyers. As it relates to Sam Altman, I think he's a con man. I think that, the oh shucks thing, I don't know, started out with Elon, gave him a lot of money, supposed to be nonprofit. Now he's making a lot of money. I don't know why I would trust him. I don't know why we would trust these people. And they're very smart. And there's probably, you just have to weigh the following. For all the stuff they're saying, that could be great. And I think it is. Healthcare, new discoveries, a lot of great stuff. And we have to figure that out. And this is where the regulation has come. I looked at a whole host and thought about a whole host of stuff that's bad. So you're telling me you've done the calculation and the good outweighs the bad. Really? I don't think so. I think you have to, and I don't want to stifle innovation either, because I do think we need AI, but we have to have the rails around it. And I know a lot of people in Silicon Valley don't like the government coming in, and it's not like the government's performed great in that area giving guardrails, and especially this kind of, but this is a pretty dynamic technology that needs really long thought about what can and can't happen. And I know other countries are going, we can't fall behind, and I got all the reasons why the stack of paper is that we have to let it go. I don't know. It makes me nervous. And what are we going to do? So, Elon said to me once, this scared me, he said, Ari, your relationship with your dogs, and I have 4 dogs. He goes, yeah. Think about it the following way. You're the dog to the AI. I don't want to be a dog. And
you'll never be a dog.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you start thinking about the speed at which this is going. Now, there's a lot of actual physical energy that is required. I understand the economic impact. We talked about what happens to kids. What is society going to be like in that world where there's no purpose? Because it's all over there. I love getting up in the morning, thinking about what to do and the interaction. I don't want to not have that. And it could be.
That we're just passive, kind of.
With a dog.
Yeah, with a dog. With a dog, right. So, I mean, the impact on your own, whole industry is also enormous. And we've also seen, do you feel that we were all just really...
You're just talking about the entertainment side?
Well, but all of our businesses, really.
I don't think it's going to affect my sports business.
You don't think it's going to affect
No,
sport? Yeah.
because I'm going to come back to entertainment, but I'll just start on sports. I don't think you can replace that end with AI. Maybe new things can happen, new sports that I'm not thinking about maybe. But, whether it be baseball, basketball, cricket, soccer, UFC, all that, I don't think that's replaceable. That's my opinion right now. I also think, I have another thesis, the original thesis of the company was there's going to be infinite distribution in 95, and that content's going to become more valuable, which has happened. And I have a different thesis as it relates to if AI comes, I think we're all now realizing we're in 4-day work weeks, so the weekend starts on Thursday. If the weekend starts on Thursday, that means there's a third more economics going into time that we all need to spend before we become the dog. And so if that's the case, there's something to do in the event business because societies are going to require for society to be healthy things for people to do stuff. And so I have a whole thesis about that we're about to be actionable for us, or attempt to be actionable. And on the entertainment side, it's going to take a lot of energy, actually physical energy, to recreate a movie. There's going to be some dislocation with departments, and it's sad. That doesn't make it bad. And so then, whether makeup or a lot of things are going to change, but we'll adapt. By the time it gets to the power generation that you're going to need to make a movie, I don't know how long that's going to be. I'm not smart enough for that. I think it's a while. And I also remember AI is ones and zeros. And so you're going to need ideas and creative ideas before that. So I think our business will exist, and it's existed throughout time. It will be different. It will be maybe not as expansive, but there's going to be high-end people creating great content. And there's going to be more content than ever.
So what about the next act of streaming? Is the peak TV era completely finished? I
think there's going to be more.
You think there's going to be more?
Yeah, we're just in the middle of a dislocation of distribution right now. So you have 4 to 5 players that are in the linear business, meaning ABC, NBC, CBS, their cable, that throws off a ton of money still. One in sub fees and advertising, even though those numbers are going down. And then you have their movement into streaming, which is costing them a lot of money. And then you have the technology players that are in it now. Old things are very valuable, but there's no indication inside the system when you look at the ratings that new stuff is not required for people to stay on service. Will there be 7 players? Will there be 5?
It is the quality question. I was so kind of bemused by why David Zaslav took, the crown jewels of quality television, HBO, and stuck it inside this Max thing, which sounds like some kind of flabby hamburger sitting on top of the kind of, this fabulous elite thing. And I feel that you can't really find it anymore, and I just think it's been...
I don't care.
decimated. You don't care?
No, because I appreciate that. Yeah. But if you're asking me on a business level, they all get to make their business decisions. I have to get to make my business decisions. At the end of the day, and on this side of my life, I'm a supplier. They get to make all their decisions, what they want to do, how they want to spend. I'm one of... Just to be cold-hearted about it, I'm one of 2 people that supplies talent, sports, things to them. They make this decision, I want to call that Max, and I don't know if it's right or wrong. Who the fuck am I, right? I'm just a guy supplying content and charging the most I can. That's my job, and I do it well. Okay, you guys make all the decisions when you want to do this, when you want to do that. Fantastic.
Well, okay, you have this... We're going to go to questions in a second, but you have a famous.
I don't want to be. I mean, that was kind of obnoxious.
It was really
Sorry,
obnoxious, actually.
But I appreciate that
believe it.
everybody wants this, that, and the other thing.
But you represent all these artists who are so amazing.
Okay, great. They
And so
want me to
wanna
make sure I get their movies and TV shows and stuff made. That's what I do.
That's right. But they also want to be doing good stuff. Many.
They
of them.
all do. I got clients that do great stuff, and my job is to get them the financing to make great stuff.
Okay.
I do.
You do. You absolutely do.
What
Okay.
it's called, how it is. Okay.
All right. So you have the famous spidey sense, Ari. Everyone says that about you. You see the next thing, the next thing, the next thing. So what are we all going to be talking about a year from now in Aspen? Where are we going in the next year?
Well, here's what I would say to you is, I think probably not next year, but probably another, I don't know, year and a half to 2 years from now, I think you're going to see the explosion of AI and the ramifications of that and what it can really do. Kind of in a middle tier right now. In my business, sports rights are going to go up. There's going to be a lot more mergers. I always found this funny. When I was a baby agent, Mike Ovitz would say, in the next 90 days. And I always thought to myself, no shit, in the next 90 days something big is going to happen. It just happens, right? That was like not profound. So I would say is the following. Entertainment's not going away. I think there's going to be more content than there's ever been over the next 2 to 3 years. There's going to be a consolidation in my business.
What happens to Paramount?
I think it's at $9. I mean,
Sherry Whitstone is like the Hamlet of every time the deal's about to close, she.
Yeah, I think some transaction will happen. It has to. I think we all have to fight for our democracy. What was it with I think it was Jefferson and Powell, and is the monarchy a republic? This is what Hakeem Jeffries said at a fundraiser I did. It's a republic if you're willing to fight for it.
Mm-hmm.
And in this country, we've always fought for it. We fought for it in the Civil War. We fought for it in World War I, World War II, civil rights, abortion. And I'm still willing to fight. And we all have to fight for it. And hopefully, we haven't gotten into this place where we're not willing to fight for it.
Which is where we come full circle.
Yeah, and
what happened last night.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me throw this open to the audience. Thank you, Ari. You're always very wonderfully prescient. I'd love to hear any questions from the audience for Ari. Over here, this gentleman in a striped shirt.
No, you can talk.
Microphone.
Thank you for your self-effacing and vulnerability revelations. This is called the art of the deal. What's the secret to your success? What enabled you to persuade Ms. Brown to do a puff piece for you?
He was just so unbelievably true.
Not to keep on pointing out, Brian Grazier's in the audience, so we had this book called Friday Night Lights. He made one of the great movies with my client, Buzz Bissinger, and my other client, Pete Berg. And I thought it was one of the best movies ever. And I call him up. I'm a young, as my father would say, pisher. And I said, talking about what I said, this is an idea I had. I said, we should do this as a series. And he said, what? I said, shut the fuck up. I'm going to go sell this as a series. And I went and I talked to Jeff Zucker, and I jammed him on it, and I had the writer, and I had Brian, I had Pete Berg, and I had this idea what it was. And I'm crazy when it comes to that. When I have an idea, I'm like, here we go.
Well, it's
now,
conviction. You have
yeah,
conviction.
and now we have another project with Buzz Bissinger called Mosquito Bowl, and I gave it to Brian Grazier, and I gave it to Pete Berg, and we had this incredible writer write it, and we pitched it to Netflix, and we're in the room and we're talking through it. They like the idea. And the buyer says yes, and the writer keeps on going. I said, what the hell are you doing? We got a yes. This deal, I said, have business of course call me, and I hung up the phone. And it's just like, I don't sit there and like, I don't hold hands. I don't do any of that stuff. I'm just in, like, my job is to come up with an idea or talk to a client about their idea and go sell it and go get the right price. And I am relentless about and there's a little bit of punching and there's a little bit of kissing when I do it. So
Punching and kissing, I like that a
yeah.
lot. Okay,
So I guess that's yeah.
Right. Over here. This lady over here.
Thank you. Thanks for the talk. I'm feverishly taking notes over here. Punching and kissing. Watch your thyroid.
Well, I don't know if that would. I hate that I said that now.
No, I don't. I love that.
Yeah.
Punching
Yeah,
and
I
kissing.
thought it was great.
We got it. You've said it. It's wonderful.
So I'm a baby agent, and a new.
Where?
It's a new company.
Please don't tell me you work for me.
No. No, but I'll have to tell Tina
I really
later.
would have screwed that up. Yeah. Where?
291 Agency out of New York.
Okay,
It was
okay.
a number of different. I used to be with Expo Chicago that you recently purchased.
Oh.
Anyway, we
Did
are.
I fire you?
No.
Oh, okay,
you
thank
didn't,
God. I didn't
thankfully.
do that.
You'll say it.
You made sure
Okay,
my
great.
boss had a retirement plan, so it was great. Anyway, you have entered into the art space.
Yeah.
And that's specifically what we do, contemporary art.
Yeah.
So I want to know a little bit about what you're thinking about the future of the art space is for the agency side.
Well, we still own Freeze. We've bought two new. We have two events in London. Two events in New York. We just bought the art fair in Chicago. Nobody wanted us to open up LA, which is kind of our most successful one. Behind, actually, another one they didn't want us to open is South Korea. And if you look at the collectible space, and not that we sell anything, but that whole kind of box, it's about a $430 billion TAM. So then we bought Barrett-Jackson, which is in the car auction business, which is also pieces of art, my opinion, but different. So we are not going anywhere. We love it. I'm a big art collector. I think, the art world is only getting bigger. And there's more wealthy countries coming online, more billionaires, so.
Okay. This gentleman here.
So I've heard that the fashion brands, Louis Vuitton, all of them, are taking their brand and putting it on cars, airplanes, and all of these things. Are they going to be a major success in building a brand outside of fashion?
I'm the wrong guy to ask. If they want to come into it and talk about it, and they want our help in thinking about it and how to finance brands, here's what's happening now. So you have the 30-second spot going away on NBC or USA. I mean, you're in a depressed market. A lot of the advertisers, we're going back to Texaco Theater. They're coming in and want to sponsor non-scripted shows and scripted shows, own those shows, and then go sell them to streamers in their AVOD and SVOD services, and go internationally, make product, and then bring it in where they can own the negatives. So that's where that conversation is happening with brands. As it relates to LVMH and Richemont and Kering, I've had preliminary conversations with two of those. You know the one that I'm not having a conversation with. And they're looking at what to do. I think their mainly first step is in sponsorship, but other brands are coming into the television ecosystem, realizing, one of the biggest issues we have in entertainment is discovery now. So you're going to have discovery issues as it relates to new products, whether it be a car, vitamins, t-shirt, whatever that is. But you're also going to have discovery issues as it relates to entertainment. And that's why social media around stars, social media around brands, all those things coming together is going to be a requirement. How it comes together, I think it's going to take many different forms right now. But they're also going to be investing in content to establish who they are through other entertainment means.
Over here, thank you.
Hi, Ari.
Hi.
It's Imran from the Business of Fashion. I'm curious to, this whole session was called, deal making. I'm curious about your due diligence process and how you think about entering new spaces, and how much of it is on, economics and analytics and TAM and that stuff, and how much of it is instinct and gut feel.
Well, the first thing is about, I read a lot as it relates to kind of my business and what I think my business is or what I think my business should be. Sometimes it's about kind of my body hacking shit that I like to do. But once I have read a bunch of stuff that triggers something and made a bunch of calls and talked, which kind of is the instinct, and then I think through it, then I'll have our M&A team and our teams kind of do a bunch of work against it. And I've got, for me, 2 big workflows right now in that new ideas idea. And then if it pans out and we go through pretty diligent, there's heavy diligence to it, then we just go and we try.
What's your eye on next?
Really? You think I'm going to tell these people? No, I'm not doing that.
Okay, all right. Over here.
What I'd love to hear about is mentoring that you do, and the time you spend with younger people, bringing them along, and most importantly, what's the experience that you have doing that?
Well, in the agency business, how I like to do it is I'll represent somebody, and I'll hand that person off to people. Meaning I'll stay involved, but I want them involved. And so sometimes they'll take the lead on ideas. And, I immediately, if they have an idea, I just call the client. I don't waste any time. We're on the phone with the biggest clients in the world, and they're pitching. And that just, there's no let's have a conversation. I don't do that. I'm not that. Okay, what's your idea? Let's go. I want to see ideas first. Let's get on the phone. And then if the idea is working, it's your idea with that client, go for it. And if you get into trouble, I'll help you. And that's the way it works. For me, that's how I do it.
Mm-hmm. What makes a great agent, if I may just ask?
Well, they have to be aggressive. They have to have good ideas, and they have to be curious. They have to, want to learn and want to keep on exploring. And not be, one of the things I think that's good about our agencies, I think people are not just, because that was a concept from the era of Mike Ovitz, where you're a television or you're a movie or you're a director. In this day and age with streaming, what's television, what's movies, what's this, you have to be across everything. Yeah. And that's, I think, what has kept people interested in growing.
Yeah. Two last questions, okay? Thank you, yes, in the purple.
I love that you're aggressive and you stood right up it's me.
Yeah.
Thanks. I have a comment and a question. My comment is, I commend you for working on yourself, because I've had many a boss in my career and went through a lot of those Mondays you're describing. So, phew. My question is, I keep hearing that TV is over.
That what is?
Television, but the future, that streaming is the new thing, and it keeps being, and full disclosure, I work for Paramount Nickelodeon, but please.
Yeah. So here's what I'd say to you. Paramount, right? There was a person that owned Gulf and Western, right? Charlie. And he made a statement. I don't know. I put it up. I framed it. It was in Variety. Movie business is over. That was, I don't know, 70s. Really? And then when I started the agency, they said the television drama business was over and packaging was over. I was like, well, there's going to be 4 networks going to 6. There's only so many clients. I'm not getting a package. I'm going to destroy people. I'm getting best prices for my clients. And so that was, and then the half-hour sitcom was over. No, not true. And now, certain people that, I won't say, there's another former executive in the entertainment business that's now in digital and talks about the movie business. And it just drives me, actually it drives me crazy, where he says, the movie business is over. I don't know. The Will Smith movie worked. The Disney movie killed. You're going to have a lot of movies this summer work. If I'm right that we're going down to 3-day work weeks or 4-day work weeks, one of the things people are going to do because we're social animals is go to the movies. So that's a lie, too. Now, this is my opinion. So, the TV business is not dead. The movie business is not dead. Anybody that makes those proclamations over the last X amount of years has been 100% wrong. So I wouldn't be nervous. And I am definitely not nervous.
The man is not nervous. We'll take one last question over here. Oh, we've got 2 here, but...
Well, we'll take the last 2.
Take the last 2.
We're in the red light 152.
So at the beginning you mentioned Trump, and then you mentioned movies. I've been reading about this movie called The Apprentice.
It's a great movie. I saw it.
Uh-huh.
So we're in the middle. I will tell you, I'm in the middle of trying to get that movie. And I will say the following to you. Trump is not bad in that movie. He doesn't come across bad. There's 2 scenes that are tough on him. I used to represent him. It's a true assessment of who he is and how he made it. And I don't know. There's some really good things about it in there about him.
But the concept is it doesn't seem to be so far to be distributed in the United States.
Well, no. So I would say that we're working on it because I'm working on behalf of my client. As Trump was on my client, I worked on behalf of him. We're trying to get it released. We're close. We're not there yet. I don't know if we'll get there because there's pretty arduous terms, and I'm trying to get there with Dan Snyder. And I don't know. But I will tell you, it doesn't make him look horrible. There's scenes that are tough, yes, for him. But I think Brian's seen the movie, Grazier. How's the movie?
I thought it was really good, too. I thought it was great.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Okay.
All right, over here.
I know, liberals are like, oh, it's going to kill him. It's going to ruin. He's got not 9. He's got 1,009 lives.
Right.
So stop.
And look, it'll just be more.
Stop.
It'll just be more spotlight.
Stop. This man does not die. Well, I just said, I'm trying.
He's trying. Leave them.
I can't do more than that.
All right, over here.
Thank you for the last question. It's great to share space with you. I worked with your brother in Chicago Public Schools when he was mayor. We are
feel
opening,
for you.
yes.
He has not done the work I've done.
We are opening the first dyslexia school in San Antonio, Texas, co-located with the Children's Museum, which is currently marked the best in the country. I would love to hear about your experience with dyslexia and any progress on the school opening that you are dreaming up.
So, my 3 kids are dyslexic. My 3 boys are dyslexic, and they had the privilege. I had the money to go to a school and help them. I remember the day. It's in my memory where there was problems, and the teacher came up, and I don't remember who it was, and they showed me pictures, and I knew what the pictures were. I just couldn't say them because that part of your brain from there doesn't go and translate, right? And back then I was in special ed. It was shitty. I was violent when people used to make fun of me. And my kids are great now. They're all, one's working in the White House, one's making movies, one's at Michigan and did summers at Apple, and I was working actually in AI. And my whole thing is, after I get through a couple things, after knock wood, certain things happen, I'm going to give the same privilege to people that are underprivileged. And we're going to start with a reading program and Linda Mubel, and we're going to go from first grade, second grade, we're going to go all the way up to 8th grade and give these kids a shot. And I'm going to pay for it.
Wow. Thank you, Ari.
Thank you.
It was so good. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody.
You're an establishing figure.